morning, Gate City Rotary.
Good morning.
Invocation and pledge. Is Tony Goodmeyer here this morning? I know he had a late flight. Tony, glad to see you this morning.
Yep, made it back last night. As we enjoy our fellowship, let us be thankful how fortunate we are to be able to serve our brothers and sisters around the world through our club and worldwide Rotary organization. That we are prosperous enables us to give our material wealth. That we are free enables us to work together on projects. That we are generous enables us to work together to achieve amazing successes. And that we are dedicated brings us together as our club so that we may continue these efforts. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The four-way test. Okay. Think, say, and do.
Is the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Billy Dodd, let me get you to introduce our guests, please.
41 of us today. With us we have Karen Pollard from Crescent Club, and with her, Sean Stroud.
Hey, Billy, hang on just a second. Karen, will you introduce or tell us a little
Sure. So sorry for the unconventional, I'm coming as a guest and bringing a guest, but you want to stand up? So Sean has started her own HR company after working as head of HR for 20 years in the field, and she specializes in difficult conversations so that everything is done with empathy and people come out of it well. I tell people she fires people so you don't have to.
Thank you for having me today.
Ralph's already gone.
This is Daryl's second visit here. He worked for not-for-profit industry with self-help, and he is back here for the second time.
Well, Dale, I'm glad we didn't scare you off last time. Thank you for coming. It's good to have you. Dale, did anybody get any older this week?
Well, we have 2 weeks of people getting older.
That's
Yeah. Okay. Last week, I'll do last week first. How's that? It covered the week, the time frame, the 21st through the 27th. Bob Haybrock had a birthday on the 24th. Year to, no, it's not. Now we had 3 big wedding anniversaries last week. On the 24th, Jim and Sue Kennedy celebrated their 47th anniversary. And I did find out on Facebook that these 2 folks know that they were all married on the same day. Ann and Jonathan Smith were married on the 26th, and Mary Ann and Mike Conrad were married on the 26th of June, and they're both couples are celebrating their 48th wedding anniversary. Okay, so for this week we have 3 birthdays. Tony Villier on July the 1st is celebrating his birthday. Judy Brumley on the 3rd will be celebrating hers. And Jim Edwards will be celebrating his on the 4th of July. Member anniversaries this week. Bobby Christensen will be celebrating on the 30th of June, and Dale Farlow on the 30th of June.
Really?
Their 21st and 20th anniversaries with Cape City Rotary. And we have no wedding anniversary.
Thank you.
Yes.
So right now, we're going to launch into a micro club assembly. And this is an important strategic thing because we have to get it done this month. So absolutely, it has to be done. So it's going to be a micro one. We'll have a full-blown one in July. So this will be our club assembly for the next 5 minutes or two. And right now, this is a real thing. First of all, thank you all, everyone who attended the changing of the guard last week. That was a wonderful event. And for those of you who weren't present, I want to just be sure that you all knew some special recognitions. First of all, the Rotarian of the Year was presented to James Edwards. Service above self, Matthew Foster. Billy Dodd was recognized as Rookie of the Year. And Dennis Markov was recognized with the President's Award, and I did not see him this morning. Board Member of the Year, Jeff Tillman. In June, we'll do a little, July, we'll do a little more organizing in terms of setting up the boards and for you all to decide which, not boards, but the committees. Thank you. And so be thinking over the next few weeks what committee you want to be a part of, and I'll challenge you to try something maybe you've not tried before. The committees will be headed up. Matthew Foster will head up the Club Service Committee, Justin Plummer, Youth Services, Mike Conrad, Foundation, Lisa Simpson, Membership, and Jeff Tillman, Public Image. And I'll also recognize Tom Richardson is going to take over as the treasurer, and that is a 2-year commitment, so I just so appreciate that, Tom. And he'll be succeeding Chris Neal, who served us for the last 2 years. Chris, thank you very much for your service to our club. Steve Scott will continue on as secretary. Like I say, this is also a 2-year role, and we stagger the treasurer and secretary in alternating years for the sense of continuity that gives the board. So Steve will be starting his 2nd year. Walt Howe, our president-elect, looking forward to your succeeding me next year, Walt. So give some thought to the different committees that you heard me talk about, and we'll
Hey, you forgot one. Fundraising committee.
Oh, yes. I'm looking forward to next year's fundraiser.
Hey, we're not waiting until January to start on either. I'm going to start reaching out to people right now.
There we go. You know, this, I can tell already, we are going to have a fabulous fundraiser next year. You're on. Okay, so be thinking about what committee you'd like to be a part of and to engage with. So that concludes this club assembly, this micro club assembly, and we can move on with some other business. I did not see Buster here, so if we're going to do Happy Dollars, I need someone to stand in for Buster.
Guy, you got any raffle tickets yet?
Next week.
Happy Dollars. I know you got a wad of them there.
Yeah, it's good to be back after 6 weeks gone and to come home to new flooring. So Cooper Trotter, just excellent job. Found out also that when you're gone for 6 weeks, people get this attitude that if you're not around for 6 weeks, probably do without you indefinitely. I'm discovering that there's some new staff members. I have no idea who they are. They're in offices. Everybody seems to like them. Anyways, I was 4 weeks in Africa doing some independent study on my doctorate, and then had a couple of weeks vacation with my wife in Europe. So having been gone, it was a wonderful, just really a wonderful time. Did a little bit of game management. Maybe I'll talk to Chip about that later. Helped thin some herds. So we really had an awesome time. But missed the fellowship, and especially sorry that wasn't able to be with you for changing the guard.
Well, I've got a couple here during David's absence. I also missed the changing of guard, but I want to brag a little bit about the last meeting I was able to go to when our very own Tony Humeyer presented. It was an amazing thing. They always say that among the best programs we have here and out our own members, and here we've been members with Tony all these years,
And it all, they had me at, and Dr. Howe and I looked at each other and they said, well, he went to Delft, he went to Oxford, he went to MIT, and we go, huh? This is Tony, and then from there, the program just got better and better. So it was just great to hear about what Tony has been about and what additionally he brings with his considerable talents to our club. Also, so I don't get called out for the 2 or 3 people who might have been watching, I was interviewed yesterday by Spectrum News in conjunction with the Operation Firecracker and the Booze It and Lose It, and the judges have to be careful that we're not, crusading, but we are part of the process with the court system, and we're involved in making sure things work as they should, and that our streets are safe, and that people are in the best position they can be. And then finally, I really want to thank everyone for the cards and letters and communiques and everything else and support you've given these last 10 days or so in the wake of the death of my father. My father loved Rotary. As Buster and I have compared notes 27 years ago this month, his father, my father, conferred on us the first Paul Harris Fellows in this club at our charter night. And he really would have loved the 505 some of you engaged in, along with members of his Greensboro club last Wednesday morning at First Presbyterian Church. It was a great thing. It's a great life that he lived and gave to all of us. And thank you all for your support through all of this.
They say if you get published, we're supposed to comment. There's an article in the Seasons magazine about Sarah and I and our life story, so it just came out this past week.
I just want to thank David Crabtree and his wife for allowing Trotter Brothers to do his for him while he was gone. Thank you, Daddy.
Rotary is just a pyramid.
Chip. Yeah, nothing too funny this morning. I wanted to thank Sean for coming out. I know it's probably because of me, but we'll talk about that later. I just wanted to tell you how great technology is. I'm at the 505, standing at the wine bar last night with about 8 of our esteemed members. Is Ken here? Ken Kika? Actually, my name is Stand Up Ken. No. Has that seat got a hole in it back there? Jeez. But anyway, I'm sitting there and my phone buzzes and buzzes and buzzes, and I look down and it's a picture of my daughter. And she's giving me a video call from the beach in Nice, France at 11 o'clock at night, and they're getting ready to go to the casino in Monte Carlo to go gamble some money away. But I'm sitting here talking at a bar in Greensboro. That's just, and video. It's just amazing to me anyway. That's all I had to say.
Any more? Well, Grandpappy said before you criticize somebody, you're supposed to walk a mile in their shoes. That way, when you criticize them, you're a mile away and you have their shoes.
Before we announce the speakers of the program, I just apologize to Ken Kinka. Ken served our club just fabulously for the last year as club admin, and I so apologize for not recognizing you when I recognized Chris for his service. Anyone that attended the changing of the guard saw what a great job Star Mountain does, and they just put on a great dinner for us. Ken, thank you so much for that. Thank you for your service throughout the whole year for the other events that we did do. Thank you. David, can you introduce Matthew Bolton? Absolutely.
It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Kathy Bull. Kathy is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Development for the USO of North Carolina. Kathy has served as the organization's Chief Officer for providing strategy and oversight to external relationships, fundraising, marketing, and communication since 2013. Kathy has 25 years of experience with leadership and as an executive in both the corporate and nonprofit sector. She has worked extensively on behalf of the military and military families, including roles at Caring Services, an organization that provides housing, treatment, and job training to homeless veterans, and job training too, as well. She's also has been executive director of Patriot Rovers, an organization providing mental health service dogs and support service to soldiers with PTSD and traumatic brain injury. Kathy has also been involved with Stop Soldier Suicide, a nonprofit dedicated to the prevention of soldier suicide through outreach and support. Obviously, Kathy has a real passion for helping our veterans, and she's here today to give us some insight on the USO in North Carolina. Please welcome Kathy.
I don't know how good I do back here. Can you all hear me? I've got too much energy, and so if I stand behind there, I'll make you really crazy. And while I could talk to you all day long about the USO North Carolina, I know you have to get back to work, and there are actually other parts of the agenda. So I'm going to talk quick, because this is a 75-year-old story that I'm going to tell you. But before I begin, I want to ask anyone who has ever served in our armed forces to please stand. Thank you. And if you've ever had a family member that has served, please raise your hand. Thank you too, because we know that when the person takes the oath to serve our country, their whole family serves. And the USO North Carolina, at its very earliest roots, was connected to North Carolina in a way that USO globally it gets excited about now, and sometimes not so excited about now. And I say that because the very first USO center was started in 1941 at Fort Bragg. The second one, a couple months later, was started at Camp Lejeune over in Jacksonville. And during World War II, USO sprang up everywhere because FDR realized then what we know today, that the success of our military and whatever their mission is dependent on a few things. One, their readiness. Two, their understanding that their family is taken care of so they don't have to worry about them. And three, that their country's behind them. And we know that this country has learned a lot of lessons over time. And I'm proud that now we do, whether we like or don't like the war, we still take care and honor the warrior. And I think that that's very, very important. And those of you that served in Vietnam, you taught that lesson to us on your backs. And it's something that I feel very personal about. My dad was in Vietnam veteran, all my uncles were Vietnam veterans, and even though I'm not supposed to have favorites, I really kind of lean towards the Vietnam veterans because I feel like I'm in a room full of my dad who's no longer with us. So that said, FDR realizing that called together a bunch of nonprofits, collaboration back in the very first beginnings, YMCA, YWCA, I think it was the Jewish Federation, Travelers Aid, Catholic Social Ministries, and they all came together to become the United Organizations. And so they came together and they did a lot of these pop-up centers, serving our military, because back then, if you think about technology, they didn't have a lot, and they didn't have a lot of cars, so when they came home on leave, or when they had a few days of respite time, there had to be a place for them to go. So these USO pop-ups offered them food, shelter, friendships, and all kinds of things. After World War II, they began shutting down, and so once they started shutting down and closing, because they figured we didn't need it anymore. And the USO of in Jacksonville, North Carolina stayed open. And it has stayed open every day since then as the oldest continuously operating USO in its original site. So if you're ever in Jacksonville, you've got to go by. It's incredible. It's downtown, and it looks like right out of a history book. But the thing that's different and that changed over the years is as we got through, we noticed the need for being connected to your country never changed. And so, you know, Bob Hope stepped up with a lot of other entertainers and athletes and took the show on the road to our military over in Vietnam saying, you know, we're giving you a piece of home. We want you to know that we support you. These famous people here support you. We love you. And it was a touch of home that became kind of what we did then, bringing it to them in the field. Well, fast forward to 9/11, and we started to see when the War on Terror began, we started to see a real need to do more. And so the USO of North Carolina, and we are a charter center. We are affiliated with the National USO in that we share the brand. We are a separate organization. We are self-sustaining. We are totally 100% dependent on the generosity of North Carolina citizens and companies. We get nothing from the government, nothing from the National USO. So, side note, if you send something to the USO, make sure it says of North Carolina if you want to help our North Carolina military. So that's my only commercial, maybe. Anyway, so as we grew over the time, from 2007, the one center in Jacksonville, we opened one back up in Fort Bragg at the Soldier Support Center. And since that time, we now have 11 centers across the state of North Carolina, both at military entrance stations, on the installations, in the travel centers at the airports, in Wounded Warrior transition battalions, and we have a mobile center that goes where there is no center. And we also deploy with our National Guard when they deploy for natural disasters. So we've been to Texas, Florida, New York, lots here during the hurricane season. So we have a wide range. And so while we're not Bob Hope anymore, we're about bringing hope. And that hope takes several forms right now for our military. We still do the traditional stuff. The travel centers at the airport, while they are very nice places for our military to come in for free and eat, if they get stranded to sleep, if their families need a place to go with all the kids because they're getting ready to go meet somebody deployed, it's a great service. But it has a couple of secondary things that are even more important. One of those is that we know today that many of the military coming home don't like to be in large crowds. There's a lot of loud noises. Many of them are very young, and so we want them to feel safe and comfortable. So they come to our center where they're greeted with a smiling volunteer and offered any number of amenities at no cost. We also help them get around the airport because most of the time it's Raleigh and Fayetteville, or Raleigh and Charlotte, and they get really lost. The other reality is that we have some military that come back in boxes, and when they come back in, one of our volunteers many years ago saw that they came in with luggage on a box, and that was unacceptable. So that we started here in North Carolina the Honor Support Teams, which now is a global network of USO volunteers that are specially trained to take care of the families. We work with DOD, we work with the airport, and when we know that remains are coming back, whether it's current battles or repatriated remains from other battles, the family comes, we greet them, we have a minister, we have everything that they could possibly need or want. If we don't have it, we go get it. And then we help them, we stand plane side, we stand throughout the airport so people know to pay respect, and we provide whatever assistance they need. So they don't ever have to come in, be lost, they got enough to think about, we're there for them. And it's become a very meaningful activity in that many times these folks, the parents or the spouses, will come back to our airport centers on anniversaries or special days to kind of remember. So we're really proud of that because it is a ministry that is hard for a lot of people, but it is an extremely important one. The USO North Carolina, over the last 5 years, has conducted surveys at the military leadership level and within the ranks and said, what are the problems? And of course, we all know about the suicides, we know about traumatic brain injuries. This is a war that's gone on now forever, and our military deployed more than ever in history, deploying sometimes upwards of 17 times. And our National Guard, and I say this because we're here in North Carolina, the National Guard has seen more deployments than they ever have in their history, and they are seeing as much as active duty. And the tragedy for them is they don't get to come back and go on an installation. They don't get to come back and do a lot of the things because they go back and they go back to work. So we have taken a real focus over the years, and this year an even deeper focus, because we know that our North Carolina National Guard led the nation in suicides. So that, again, is unacceptable as a North Carolinian, I'm sure you agree. So we work a lot with them and their families. We are very engaged in programs that have showed up as gaps. We have a lot of nonprofits in North Carolina. There are 1,400 military serving nonprofits in North Carolina. We're really excited because we've been here 75 years by the sides of our military from the time they put on their uniform till the time they take it off. And we are with their families every step of the way. So how does that look today in addition to those? One, we heard from the military resiliency, readiness was critical. So in an attempt to help those military that are coming back from combat or other deployments, or even having a difficult time because maybe someone in their unit was killed in action or hurt, they carry a lot with them inside. And so we offer a program called Warrior Reset, and it is off installation, out of ranks, and out of chain of command. That way nothing goes on to records. We bring in subject matter experts, and over the course of 3 days have a variety of activities that they engage in that allow them to do really deep dives into what's going on inside, but give them tools. We do everything from drumming to gardening to horse and dog therapy. I know that the other nonprofit that's here, when I talk to you, we might have some energy, because a lot of our guys, they are adrenaline junkies. They love to go skeet shooting, they love to go fishing, they love to ride motorcycles. So we work partnerships with all those, because we don't want to duplicate services. We want to enhance and partner with people that are already good at what they do, and then we want to offer services that fit the gaps. Warrior Reset filled a gap, a needed gap. Just about every single session we hold, at least one person comes up and said that they had an intention for suicide that week and they were asking for help. So we know this one saves lives. Their spouses are invited to go with them, and they started saying, well, what about us? So we sprung off and started a spouse reset program and really dealt specifically with issues of spouses. And then we started a family reset because we were hearing that across the state, especially in middle school, children with deployed parents engaged more in unhealthy activities, cutting, violence. They're more inclined to go into gangs. They weren't doing as well at school. The STEM project areas especially, they weren't up to their peers. And so we began our family reset to address some of those issues, but we also have a reading and study skills component, and we just this year launched our STEAM, formerly known as STEM, program across the state, and we're getting high marks on that, because our military children, just like our military, they are one of us, but they have some special needs that have to be addressed because of the military lifestyle. And I understand that. Having in first grade, my dad was active duty. I had 7 first grade classes, 7 first grade schools. And that's really hard on a kid. So we do a lot of activities. We work with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of clubs in doing sometimes these special activities like bike builds, sandbox builds, toy builds. We work a lot with financial literacy because the military is the second most preyed upon in this country, and especially here in North Carolina. So we do financial education in all of our classes, as well as a standalone, and then we also incorporate it with kids and families. The thing that I think might be of interest to some of you is that we lead the state in our efforts to place transitioning military and veterans into employment. While the past governor had some initiatives, we are the ones that provide those services for that program. And then across the state, our Operation Exit not only prepares military that are transitioning into the workforce with the reality of what it's like in the workforce and all the different skills you need to make a good interview, a good resume, dress right, use LinkedIn. Those things we do with them, but for employers that want to hire military, we work with them through our Pathfinders program, which is a global hiring network of the USO. We run the Pathfinders here in North Carolina, and between that and our Operation Exit, we are able to customize with our partners opportunities for networking, getting on the installation, have direct contact with the military, either group or individualized hiring events, which are not job fairs. They're pre-matched with their skill sets and brought to you for interviewing. We also offer CEU credits for HR and hiring managers so that they can get trained and get credits so you can have the retention. There's a lot of things going on around the state right now that we're working on, a lot of things that are important, but probably the most important thing is making sure that they are connected to you. Our mission is to connect our military to family, home, and country. And by having me here today and letting you know what we're doing, so perhaps you have the opportunity to join with us in being a force behind the forces. So thank you. I talked quick. I threw a lot at you. Go to our website. I'll leave some business cards. And as a fellow Rotarian, thank you for all that you do across the state.
In my former Rotary Club, and it's been a few years now, but the USO facility at Charlotte Douglas was one of our primary projects. We weren't so rich in terms of money, but we had a core group of mostly retired veterans, several of whom were actually World War II veterans, who regularly took shifts there. And the stories that they brought home and shared with us were absolutely gut-wrenching. And they really felt like they were doing God's work.
Thank you. Thank you for helping.
I want to say, having experienced the USO in Iraq, that it is extremely helpful and extremely beneficial to soldiers. I mean, it really does reconnect you. It gets you back on focus with what you're fighting for, and they connect you with family. They did things for me that, I mean, thinking about it still makes me emotional. Just thinking about how they helped me to reconnect back with my family at home during like holidays and special events and stuff like that. So
thank you.
very
Thank you.
beneficial.
Appreciate that. And those are the comments that keep us going. I do want to tell you, we are highly ranked, spending 93 cents on every dollar on direct programs. We have a small staff that provide 600,000 services in North Carolina each year. So we run around a lot, and we work a lot with our 700 plus volunteers. So thank you again. Thank you for your comments and your service to all of you.
On behalf of the Past Presidents Committee, I'd like to present you and present the USO with a check for $650 as part of our fundraiser. And this is what our Past Presidents Committee funding supports, or programs like this. So Kathy, thank you. Thank you for coming and speaking to us
Thank you
this
for
morning.
everything. And thanks, David, for all your support and your help with our organization.
Chip, will you introduce?
I will. I want to take 2 seconds of our time up, though, before I introduce my guest and speaker today. I want to thank Kathy. I had no idea. I thought I knew something about veteran services and whatnot, and in fact, helped start a charity to do just that, but I had no idea the USO did what they did, and we're going to have to talk see if we don't have some synergy. I want to introduce the mild, meek, and ever quiet Phil Miller by day, okay? He's a furniture sales executive, but get him out of that furniture sales executive position at night and let him open that chest up and become the co-founder and director of Enduring Gratitude. 6 guys got together 7 years ago. We put together and said, we got to do something to thank our veterans. And we all have ties. None of us particularly serve, but we all have family ties. And we wanted to do something for other veterans. And so it just so happens that Phil's brother owns a quail hunting, pheasant hunting, and shooting preserve. And we thought, would it be a great day to take some veterans out, particularly wounded veterans, and just take them out and give them a day in the field. Let them shoot and have some fun. And it's grown into a lot more for the simple reason that we started out with 19 people the first year, and 2 days beforehand they all canceled because of something in the transition warrior thing. They didn't get something. And then somehow it got back on. We ended up with 22. Yeah, and so this past year we had 150 veterans. Of those 150 veterans, we had another 150 volunteers because you don't always know who's mobile. You have to move people. We fed them a continental breakfast. We fed them a full barbecue and chicken lunch. I don't want to give you a count on dead chickens and pigs that we cooked, but it was a bunch. I know it was 450, 500 donuts donated. I mean, everything. Our budget this year was a little over $50,000. It was all raised by 6 guys who, we try and work hard. So I'm going to turn it over to Phil Miller, and while he's doing that, I'm going to see if I can get the laptop running. We have a rather exciting little video here. Take it away, Phil.
Thank you very much, Chip and Kathy. That's amazing, and she's tough act to follow. I don't know if I can. Maybe I can carry her luggage out of here or in purse or something. As Chip said, we, bottom line is, it was a group of guys who were sitting around Johnny's kitchen, and actually, Chip, it was 9 years ago because 2019, February 2019, February 9th. You want to put on your calendar, that will be our 10th anniversary. So it's quite a milestone for just a bunch of guys who were sitting around one day, and my brother Johnny said, I've been really fortunate to live my dream. I mean, we were in the furniture manufacturing business. My dad started a company in 1953, and we grew it to about 600 employees and doing $45 million in sales by 1999, and then about 6 years, the Chinese competition pounded us in the ground, had to close the business. That my dad started from scratch. So anyway, we were all trying to seek a different path, and my brother had always loved bird hunting, and he and his wife thought, well, geez, let's go buy a piece of property, and here we go. And he's got an amazing facility. If you're ever interested in shooting sporting clays, like Chip said, quail hunting, pheasant hunting, we'd love to see you. And I'd love to invite for y'all to see, hopefully, at some point, this event we call Enduring Gratitude, because we got great videos, and I can tell you about it until the cows come home, but when you see it, and as we all said, it gives you chills. It gives me chills right now to engage, as far as I'm concerned, the most incredible people that our country is proud to know. Bottom line is, they raised their hand, they volunteered to serve our country, and they knew this minute they did that, they were prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice, which many have over the course of time. So, it was our small way of trying to figure out how could we say thank you, how we can give back, and just give them a day that was all about them, and they could just have a really good time. I don't want to brag too much, but I've had many, from 3-star generals to
platoon sergeants to, Marines, foot Marines. And they basically said, we've been to different events, and sometimes, people have a very good intention, but they kind of leave where it was maybe more about them, saying, look at us, we want to thank you. And they said, I've never been to a place where people this was all about us. From the minute they walked in, people were greeting them, thanking them, smiling throughout the day. We did everything we could to give them the best time we could. And so that makes me feel like we're doing our job. I'm going to share with you, and I know we don't have the limited time, but I would like to share with you about 3 different experiences. We talk about experiences, and it gives me chills right now to think about them. The very first, I guess it was our second event, there was a young man who was 82nd Airborne. He was a platoon sergeant. He grew up in a little farm in Michigan, 18 years old, and he told me, we were standing there for lunch, and we got talking about his story, and he said, I was 18 years old, grew up on a farm, and all I ever wanted to do was be a paratrooper. And 82nd Airborne was where I wanted to go. So here this kid comes to Fort Bragg, volunteers. He's 18 years old. He was 43 years old at the time. We're sitting there having lunch. And I, was sitting at a table, and he walks up and I said, sir, please have my seat. And he said, I'm sorry, sir, I can't sit. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done here? And he said, no, don't feel bad. I understand. Let me just tell you about what happened to me. He said, I grew up as a paratrooper, became a platoon leader, master sergeant, and he said, I had my group. We were in Iraq, and we had been on he personally had, I think he told me he had 1,700 jumps, and in Iraq, I guess the way he described it, they go 30 days straight, and then they have whatever. So they had jumped 30 nights in a row. He said, and he was telling me about his experience, and it was just, he said, sir, it's the biggest rush you can ever imagine. He said, you prepare your team. He said, we're over the desert. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a full moon. It's unbelievable. He said, and we're ready to go. He said, so this particular night we jumped and I came down, and he said, honestly, I can't remember if I hit the ground first or if I got shot before I hit the ground. Well, he hit the ground, and if when you jump on anything, you got to have your knees bent. Well, he hit straight like this, and it basically shattered his back vertebrae. So he was more or less paralyzed for, I forget what period of time, went through multiple operations. And he finally said, sir, and he showed me. And I wasn't quite sure, because you're always uncomfortable about whether they want to share your story. It's actually very therapeutic, as it turns out, for them. And he was proud to tell me about it, and he felt like it would put me at ease. Pulls up his shirt, and he shows me this backpack that he's wearing. And he said, basically, they've got wires that have gone through my back all the way through my shoulders, sending these pulses to keep my nerves activated. He said, so there are many bad things about war. There's many traumatic and unfortunate things about war. He said, but the one thing in this particular war that has happened is we've had incredible medical technology and development that allows me to stand before you right now instead of being in a wheelchair. He said, my biggest disappointment right now is I've been doing this for 25 years, and I thought I'd be doing it until I was 62 years old. He said, but I'm going to be transitioned out here in the next month, and I'm not sure quite what I want to do. And he teared up, and I said, sir, I can't tell you how much this means to me, and thank you for your service. There was another young man that came about 3 years later, and he was walking through the fields. We're out there in the fields, and we're doing the tower shoot with pheasant, and they rotate around. And as they come up, you want to say, sir, thank you for your service. And this one of my guys said, well, young man, would you mind telling me a little bit about your experience? I said, yes, sir, I'll be glad to. He said, and this kid's like 27 years old. So he had joined when he was 18. He was actually a canine specialist. So his job was to have, a dog that was trying to, sniff out EIDs. And as they were on patrol, he said it was on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. He said one of the most dangerous parts of the world, I guess. And he said it was a crystal clear morning. We were out about 7 o'clock. We're on a 6-man patrol. He said my sergeant's to my left, and my best buddy, who we listed at the same time, is to my right. We got our point guy, a guy in the back, and one other. He said we noticed this kid walking up to us, and he looked like he needed some help, and we were trying to reach out to him. As it turns out, he just looks at us, and the next thing we know, he's detonated, a suicide bomb. He said the only reason it didn't kill us all is apparently they'd strapped it on him inside out. He was probably 12 years old. He said it killed my dog, it killed my best friend, killed the master sergeant. I took shrapnel all throughout, blew up my eardrums, took shrapnel in his legs. Anyway, he tells his story. He said, but you know, I was determined I was going to get back. And he went through significant rehabilitation, operations. Anyway, I'm just sitting there just, I don't even know quite what to say. At the end of the day, after we have our events, about 4:30, some of the soldiers, they come back to the clubhouse and they're mingling and they're saying their goodbyes and they're all in there. It was just a really special time. And so amongst about 100 of us, he said, sir, could I say something? And I said, absolutely. He said, you know, when I went through, you know, what I had to endure, he said, you go through physical therapy, you go through operation, physical therapy, and psychological debriefing. He said, and it went on for over a year. He said, I will tell you one thing. He said, the day y'all have provided for me today, you can take all the therapy in the world. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I just want to thank you. That's all I needed to hear. I said, I'm a pretty motivated individual. Well, I mean, here we are. So that year, I think we had 76 veterans. This year, we had 150. We were determined that we're going to get the maximum number, and this is active and veterans, okay? So we had 107 veterans from Vietnam through Afghanistan. We also have 43 active guys. They come from Camp Lejeune, they come from Fort Bragg. It's a really interesting dynamic to watch the active guys intermingle with the veterans. The one last story I'm going to tell you is 2 years ago, he came this past year, so 2 years ago, we find out about Louis Jones. Louis Jones is 93 years old. He lives in Burlington. He's either the last or the next, or there's two of them that are survivors, living survivors of World War II, living in Alamance County. Well, a guy that has a little diner heard about our event and called us up and said, I got my buddy Louis Jones, he's been eating breakfast with me for 30 years. He said, I've kind of become his, his surrogate son. And he said, could I bring Louis to your event? And it was like the day before the event. We said, absolutely. Well, here comes Louis. Well, Louis he heard about it, he was so excited. He says, I got out my old shotgun, I hadn't shot it about 20 years. He spent about half the night trying to oil it up and get it ready. So he comes out, we got him in the field. He says, I'm blind in one eye, so I'm not sure I know how to shoot this. He said, but he said, I sure hope I can shoot me a pheasant one more time. I mean, I was just absolutely, we were all in awe of this man. Well, what would happen is when you rotate around, the young guys all wanted to meet Louis. And it was just their honor. I mean, you just should see the look on their face. Well, Louis was out there, and he was missing and missing. He says, dadgummit. So what we do typically in the morning, we have one half of the group, they do the pheasant shoot, the other half do the sporting clay course, and then we rotate. So Louis had done the pheasant shoot in the morning and at lunch, and we're talking to him, and and the guy says, he might just get a little worn out by about mid-afternoon. We said, fine, we'll do whatever. We got carts for him. We got to take care of it. So I said, Louis, it's time for us to go to the sporting clay course. He said, well, if it's all the same to you, he goes, I'd really like to go back out there to the pheasant shoot. We said, absolutely. Well, a group of us went out there. Well, we kind of put him, when birds fly, it's depending on the wind and sun and whatever. So about half of the birds usually fly in a certain direction. So you try to get paid. That's why we rotate the field so everybody gets a single shot. We said, we're going to put, if you're a fisherman or, you find a honey hole, you find that one place where the fish are biting. So we said, we're putting Louis in the prime position. He's going to stay there. Somehow or another, we're going to get him a pheasant. And we got a bunch of the really good shooters around. I said, guys, Louis Jones is going to leave here with a pheasant one way or the other. And so when you shoot, I want to, he gets out there. It wasn't about 30 minutes later, and I'll be dadgum if he didn't shoot one. Well, you'd have thought we gave him $1 million. And then about 10 minutes later, he shot another one. Well, he ends up putting feathers in his cap, and people are congratulating him. And he just told us at the end of the day, he said, this is just an amazing, special day for me. And he was telling us about his stories. He joined the Navy when he was 17 years old. Graduated from high school, 1942, joined the Navy, immediately shipped him to the Pacific. He was actually on a support ship for the submarine fleet, and they were assembling torpedoes. I guess you do this like the day before, 2 days before. And he said, so when I came back, he told us various stories about that. He said, I came back and after the war, and everybody said, he says, here I am, I'm 21 years old, ready to get on with life. People said, well, Louis, gosh, I mean, you were in World War II. I mean, were you scared? And he said, nobody ever told us we were supposed to be scared. We had a job to do. We did our due. So, you know, you hear these kind of stories, and it just makes you feel like, guys, this is what it's all about. So I know y'all support many great organizations. I just want to tell you how much we thank you. We got some films here that we're going to show. They're like 2 minutes each. Briefly, any questions whatsoever? Y'all been a great supporter for us for several years now. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much.
Bang, bang, bang.
Well, there's no sound, but it's not coming through the speakers, guys. I'm sorry. Sporting clay scores pheasants.
You know, most of the military guys are master marksmen, and some can hit, I guess, a quarter from 1,000 or 2,000 yards. But boy, they struggle with shotguns sometimes. So you should see that they're ragging on each other. It's just a lot of fun. I hate we don't have this.
Is this on YouTube, guys?
It's on our website, enduringgratitude.org. I mean, please go to it.
Enduringgratitude.org and Beaver Pond Sporting Club, look under other or events. I'm so sorry we don't have sound.
There's a little bit. There's something in the back.
It's coming out here, but it's not coming out anywhere else.
You see the bottom volume on the taskbar?
Yes, I do.
I'm trying to
You were talking about technology?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is, right there. Well, it's out there. I do apologize. It's just plain not coming, and these speakers aren't big enough. I'll get here at 6:30 next time and have it set up. I will tell you this while you're watching that. Sean Roberts, a former member of our club, he's gone to law school, was a veteran. He presented here. Sean had quite a few issues with PTSD. In fact, when he spoke to our club, his first public speaking engagement that he had ever done. And we were absolutely amazed at how well he did. I looked over at Kelly Harrell and who brought him to speak, and I said, Kelly, we got to get that guy in our club. And after I met Sean, talked to him some more, we took him out and he became a guest with us. And then he came back, I think 3 years in a row as a volunteer. But Sean would tell you that there's a lot more to enduring gratitude than killing pheasants and breaking clay pigeons. It's an opportunity for these folks, because it's men and women, to get together and talk about their experiences and what doctors can fix this and what doctors can fix that. There are a couple of guys in this video. If you see me, I'm driving and I've got them with me. They really wanted to walk, but it's about 3/4 of a mile from the end of the sporting clays course to the start of the sporting clays course, and even further out to the pheasant fields. And between these guys, they started a company called Stumpy's Guns down on the Stumpy Swamp down east. But the reason that it's Stumpy's Guns is because between them they have one live growing ankle. The rest are all mechanical. And they walk, and you would never know that they had a problem unless he said, can I borrow a hammer or a pair of pliers? I got to fix something here. I said, well, sure. And I think he's talking his shotgun. He gets a hammer and starts wailing on his ankle. And he says, yep, I got it. Okay, let's go. So anyway, I want to thank particularly all the Rotarians who've come out and volunteered. I know a lot of you have given to us separately, and thank the club very much. This is the 5th or 6th year that you've sponsored and helped us. Thank you so much.
Guys.